It's the Fab Four. It is our look ahead to the weekend of the 4 games in North American soccer that we think might be worth carving out some time to take in. We'll go from Jason and myself, producer Jenny, and then members. You will get the 4th of the Fab Four. So members of Morning Kicker on the MK Ultras, put in your suggestions for the chat pick for the Fab Four. But Jason, take it away.
I'm gonna bring up something I'm sure my friend Nicholas Murray, who is active in our chat, will appreciate. I'm picking a USL Championship game for the first of the Fab Four, and I am picking the Hail Caesar Derby. We were going back and forth before the show whether we were going to call it a derby or a derby. We are calling it a derby because that's clearly, that we're talking about a rivalry. This isn't really one, but it does have some common, it has a common element here, right? What is a common thing between Detroit City FC and the Charleston Battery?
One coach Ben Perman, I believe you're referring to.
That's right. One coach, Ben Perman, who has steadily made his way up the ranks in American soccer coaching. I appreciate Ben Perman's story because he's not a guy that you knew from his playing career. Right. He didn't have a 10-year professional career. And, he's not Dax McCarty, who everybody thinks might make a good coach one day. He's not sort of moving. He's not Steve Cherundolo with a national team resume. Like, he's not one of these guys. He's not a foreign guy, obviously. He's American. He was, what was he at the time that he was coaching Detroit City? He was also an assistant coach at Michigan State University, if I'm remembering this correctly.
You got it right.
And that's also when he got the Caesar nickname from the Detroit City faithful when they were still an amateur side before they went professional. He then parlayed that success in Detroit into a job in Memphis, where he had some success in the USL Championship with Memphis 901. RIP Memphis 901. They no longer exist. And Ben got out of Memphis probably at the right time, knowing that maybe that wasn't the best place for him. Lands in Charlotte. And what is he doing in Charlotte? He's got Charlotte in first place in the Eastern Conference. And they get to play a Detroit City team that's actually having a decent start to the season. 10 games played, 17 points, 4th place in the Eastern Conference right now. I don't think Charleston's lost. I don't think they've dropped any points for a while now. 21 points from 9 matches. They're plus 12. Ben Perman, I really hope that Ben Perman gets a chance to coach at the MLS level one day. And I hope he can break that glass ceiling that is a coach coming through that kind of path, getting a chance to coach abroad, maybe even, Rob. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but if I can see it happening in this moment, in this timeline, Ben Perman might be the guy.
Good shout there for DCFC versus Charleston for our first Fab Four game. Number 2, my pick. I'm going to go with a Charlotte versus Columbus Crew. Both teams kind of going in opposite directions. Columbus Crew was one of my favorite teams to watch in Major League Soccer, as is. Charlotte had a decent start to the season, but are in a bad way. They drew, they went out of the Open Cup midweek and then had 3 MLS losses in a row before that. And these two teams met in early May, with Columbus coming out with a 4-2 win. So I think we're going to see either a continuation of, upward trajectory for Columbus, continuous slide for Charlotte. Yeah, and there was a lot of goals in the last matchup. So I think it could provide some storylines and an exciting watch.
You gotta wonder here. Now this is not maybe the game that everything hinges on, but because Columbus is good and everybody recognizes how good Columbus is.
Yeah.
But this is at home in Charlotte, where there's been excitement. I don't know what the ticket sales look like for this game. I don't know how much of an away draw Columbus is. I don't think they're putting 65,000 in Bank of America Stadium for this one, but they should have a good crowd. They should have a solid number of people in the building. Dean Smith, he had some moments. He had some good things. He did he can, sort of consolidated some strengths of this team. But man, it has gone bad pretty quickly. And I don't know. I don't think we have a sense yet. Now he's their second coach. So they didn't hesitate to fire the first guy when things were not good. You wonder if maybe Dean Smith's job is on the line if he cannot turn this around. And they're in a playoff spot right now, but they're barely hanging on to one. And they had a lot of promise coming in the year, and they obviously spent the money on Wilfred Zaha and what's going on here?
Yeah, for context of how bad it has gotten in Charlotte, their last league win was April 19th. Their last victory was in the Open Cup against North Carolina FC, but they've got 5 Major League Soccer losses in a row. So sliding a little bit there in Carolina. Third pick of the Fab Four here on Friday. Producer Jenny singled out Philadelphia versus Inter Miami.
I mean, that's an obvious one, right? That one has got storylines on storylines because Philly is obviously in a good moment. They just reached the quarterfinals of the Open Cup. They've started life under Bradley Carnell, playing very good soccer and scoring goals. And did anybody have them at first place after 14 matches in your predictions for the season? I don't know that I did. Right there with Cincinnati and Columbus is the best teams in the East. Meanwhile, Inter Miami has they've only won 2 of their last 7. They've given up 20 goals in those games. They've got all these complaints coming from Lionel Messi about refereeing. I actually wrote about this on my newsletter. Jason Davis, Soccer Eagle. Go look for it on Google. You'll find it. Subscribe to my newsletter. It'd be nice if people read what I'm writing because I haven't written like this in a while. But I obviously thought I also think it's interesting the way that sort of Miami's become the bad guy, the focal point of negative energy from MLS fans. People resent who they are and what they've done. And there's some schadenfreude in how their play is suddenly not delivering results. And I think a lot of people are kind of like pointing and laughing and doing a Nelson from The Simpsons at Inter Miami right now.
I mean, I said it up until, for the last couple of months that of the teams that start off the season in the elite, top positions, that Inter Miami was probably the closest to the edge of the table and falling off, and it hasn't been a complete fall off, but pretty darn close. I mean, losing 5 of 7 is pretty big fall.
We love a boom or bust. I think we love a boom or bust story because look, if you're like, oh, look how great they are, and look at these Barcelona guys coming together to recapture the magic, and they set a points record last year, and maybe 2025 is going to be the year when they bring the league title to Miami and lead into the year when they expect to open their stadium. I think that's coming. They're talking about signing Messi to an extension. I mean, he's 37 years old. Is that really? Do we think that's going to work out? And now here is the collapse, right? The bust part of this, because you put all your eggs in some very old baskets and those baskets are falling apart, Rob.
The last Inter Miami game I saw, I had a kind of a thought creep into my head. Is this season really going to be where we just see these favorite players of many people around the world just become too old in front of our eyes? Like Busquets, Alba, who also signed an extension, which was surprising. And Suarez, he got them to that supporter shield last year, but he does not look like the same player. And one of my favorite all time. And it's like, is MLS the place where these guys died?
Yeah.
I sure hope that's not the case.
When you're that age, things work until they don't work anymore, right? It's not, and then there's no spectrum. It's like, oh, it's going okay. Everything works. Oh, everything's falling apart. My joints don't work. My muscles don't work. I can't run at all anymore. My energy levels are collapsing. Like all of those things, you're wringing the towel completely dry. And Mascherano's not the guy for this. That's the other part. I mean, the storyline here.
This is a heavy lift, right? Somebody dig into the experience. Where's the experience?
Part of the reason why people are pointing and laughing, if they resent Miami and the Messi attention and the breaking of the rules in the past and some of Jorge Mas's public, persona things that he does. He's easy not to like Jorge Mas. This is Lionel Messi's team, right? Suarez, Alba, Busquets, Ustari, Mascherano, whoever their GM is now, the guy that they brought over that is a friend of Lionel Messi's. This is Lionel Messi's club. Mas ceded control. Beckham ceded control to Lionel Messi, and now it's on him, and it's fascinating to watch what's going on. And maybe they do find a way to come back into this, and maybe they don't collapse completely, but they certainly aren't the team from last year.
Fab Four of the weekend, almost complete, but the fourth pick from the MK Ultras, it looks like we have from USL League One, MK Ultras picked it. Forward Madison versus Portland Hearts of Pine. Both teams have lots of exciting elements to them. Forward Madison, one of the best marketed teams in lower league American soccer. Portland Hearts of Pine, one of the best stories of the early rounds of the U.S. Open Cup. Had some great crowds, and just like the huge buildup to a team, one of the best this year, one of the best stories.
We had a great U.S. Open Cup moment with Portland Hearts of Pine this year. These are two of the best imaged teams. I mean, I know it's not really what matters. It's a soccer. Who cares? But, we like hits. We like style. We like the way that clubs kind of set themselves up. And Forward Madison set the standard for this in lower division soccer in America. And now Portland Hearts of Pine have come along and are doing incredible things as well. I still don't have any Portland Hearts of Pine gear. I don't know how I haven't figured out how to get my hands on some. Really need to figure that out.
Wink, wink.
And as you said, I mean, Portland has some excitement, some energy. When we did our attendance video on USL, had some comments after the fact that said, hey, Portland Hearts of Pine, they've sold out, right? They've done really well. This game obviously is in Madison, but that is interesting part of the story that Portland Hearts of Pine has taken sort of Maine by storm and is making waves across American soccer.
So Madison versus Portland, Philly versus Miami, Charlotte versus Columbus, and DCFC versus Charleston are the Fab Four of the weekend. If you're watching this now and haven't hit subscribe yet, what are you waiting for? It doesn't cost you a darn thing. Don't get a single spam email, but you do help us and you help the MK Ultras grow. It doesn't cost you a darn.
Sorry, that was my fault. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
That was a new one. New production elements, something that your support can help us with. If you want to take it past the subscription level, you can become a member for $3.99 a month. You can directly help this production, help the team grow, and get lots of benefits such as early access to videos and access to the MK Ultras Discord. You can follow us on social media at MKickround X, Instagram, Blue Sky. Write us a note at morningkickaround@gmail.com. Have you read all those manifestos yet?
I'm working my way through. I've got 6 or 7 manifestos left to read.
And you can also, if you are a podcast listener, look for Morning Kickaround on your favorite podcast app. And then if you want to support us financially outside of YouTube, coffee.com/morningkickaround.